Yeah, we are.
Alright mate, we're on the lookout for a purple people eater. A purple people eater? Yeah, a purple people eater.
This thing eats people.
And it's purple.
It's purple.
Yeah, it's purple.
And it eats people.
It's a purple coloured people eater.
What's that over there? Does it eat people?
It might eat people, but it's not purple.
What do you mean it's not purple?
It's not purple.
Then what is it?
It's eggplant.
It's an eggplant?
No, it's eggplant coloured.
So it's not a people eater?
Well, it could be a people eater, but it's not purple.
What if it's an eggplant people eater?
We ever heard of an eggplant eating people?
It's not an eggplant.
But does it eat people?
G'day mate. Have you seen a purple peel?
Oh, humanity!
How's it going, everybody? Today I've got a great new Beastbox to take a look at. This is the just released figure called BB-66 Kommando, and it's 52 Toys' take on a Komodo dragon. Komodo dragons are among the largest predatory reptiles on the planet, and this little dude's name is pretty much perfect. We're going to take a look at the box contents, a deep dive into figure details included in its color scheme and articulation. We'll take a look at its bonus item, I'll do a transformation demo, I'll give this guy a box grade, and then I'll wrap it up with some final commentary. It's been a while since I've done a full figure review, and I'm looking forward to having you along with me, so let's get right into it. Let's take a quick look at this package. As always, it has beautifully illustrated artwork, the newer character designation pill with the skewed character number, and the new Beastbox logo. Although there is actually another version of the Beastbox logo that's starting to pop up in the wild. More stuff on the back here. Lately, a lot of newer releases have had some extra mode or feature that they've thrown in, like a triple changer feature, and this one is just a straight up Beastbox. It's a beast, and it's a box, no extra gimmicks other than its bonus item, which is sold separately of course. I've said it before, I prefer figures that do a couple of things and do them really well, and Kommando is definitely one of those. Its simplicity and focus of intent is a very welcome improvement, at least with regard to what I like most about Beastboxes. Designed by X2R, 52 Toys in-house geniuses who always does incredible work on these things. Very awesome studiers of animal anatomy and behavior. Let's open this real quick to see what we got. One thing I want to point out first is, of course, it does come with a box charger, and this is the newer style box charger with the extra holes and shit that you're never going to do anything with. And I want to point out this bubble card here. Just by the nature of this elongated figure, which appears to be about 1 1/3 units long, for one, it's astounding that this thing can turn into a 2-inch cube. And given how long it is, they actually had to curl it in half just to fit it inside the box. So that's a really interesting bit of engineering they had to do just to get it into a standard package. Inside the box, we have a usual set of stuff. We got instructions, catalogs, some extra stuff, and a character card. As per tradition, we'll take a closer look at this. So, BB-66. And 52 Toys has gotten quite a bit better about adding the dash and the figure on the character card. It's just one of those typography details that they hadn't really been doing consistently for a long time, even though every other mention of the character designation number shows a dash in the character number. So kudos to them for lining up all their materials. Good stuff. As far as the character card, it has some beautiful artwork on it. Let's see what we say about Kommando. Ideally, post to the front line and carrying out the most impossible mission through mud and blood, flame and tear, we shall triumph. Brave heart for brave Beastbox. Reality, we have been stuck in this valley for 3 days already. If we cannot go to open ground today, I will surely bust you open. That is hilarious. Something I got to point out here is there have been a few mentions of valleys in Beastbox lore, so something tells me that the creators, the guys who are writing this character lore, are kind of doing it topographically, I would assume based on kind of the area they live in or something like that, or whatever. One way or the other, they seem to really like valleys, but I just found that interesting. Anyway, so obviously Kommando apparently is not a very bright character, has high defense, pretty darn strong, and maximum courage there. Not especially quick. But you know, he's a lizard soldier and he's out there in the trenches. Alright, let's talk about some figure details. First thing, we'll take a look at the color scheme of this guy and his overall graphic styling. You got a lot of dark grays and purple. Don't know if the camera's picking this up or not, but the purple has a very nice sparkly sheen to it. Kommando has some white accents on the lower jaw and on its claws, some red accents too, along with some translucent cyan bits, which has a very nice light piping effect. You'll see a bit more of that when it transforms into its cube mode too, which we'll take a look at a little bit later on. The red bits do also have a bit of a sparkly sheen to them. Little gold land animal faction symbol here. And a nice touch that I haven't seen on any other Beastbox is this half-tone gradient effect, which is pretty cool. They really hit the mark on the physicality and anatomy of this type of creature. 5.2 Toys never disappoints on that mark. Starting with the head, you have an opening and closing jaw with a nice bit of teeth texture in there. One thing I will say that's a little bit concerning is the jaw is painted. It's kind of a tight fit and you have to get your fingernail up in there, so I feel like it may start chipping over time. If you look real close, and again I don't know if my camera is picking this up, the paint on the chin is slightly thin. In any event, the head does have a nice range of motion, turns left and right, and can certainly tilt up to a degree. However, one thing to be aware of is that because the way the back of the neck sits on the spine, this elongated neck does want to split open when you tilt the head up. Here's something I think is absolutely phenomenal, is it has a full range of motion along the entire spine, all the way through the tail at multiple points. It can swivel left and right. It's an incredible amount of articulation that is just above and beyond what you might expect. I do not know of any other transforming action figure lines that has a long lizard-type creature, but as far as I know, nothing out there even remotely approaches that level of physicality that 5.2 Toys manages to build into their figures. Just to show you how advanced their designs have gotten, here's an earlier version of an elongated creature. This is BB-17 Sharkira. It also has that emulation of a creature that twists along its spine to move, which I always thought was really cool, but Kommando is next level. What you can do with this one is just way more detailed and articulate. One more thing I want to point out is the legs. They have a nice range of motion with bending along the elbow and the shoulder on both the front and hind legs. As far as Kommando, you might instinctively position its legs straight forward on the sides. They actually walk bow-legged in real life, and 5.2 Toys built that feature into the design of this figure. That, to me, is next-level engineering, and the kind of detail that you get from the geniuses of 5.2 Toys who literally spend months studying these animals, figuring out how they move and what their posture is, and I think what they do is just incredible. Komodo dragons also have a loose flap of skin under the neck, and there again, that look and feel is absolutely represented. One other thing I want to point out is there have been a number of complaints from early adopters that this figure has a very loose neck. My copy doesn't seem to quite have that issue. I suspect it might loosen up over time, but I've seen some examples of this figure's neck that just flap straight down. So if you don't have that issue with yours fresh out of the box, you might consider yourself fortunate, so just be aware of that. The only issue I have is, and this might just have something to do with how I transformed it, I want to bring the neck up and I do not have this positioned correctly in a way that the back of the neck won't split open. Or it could just be that Kommando isn't designed to tilt its head that far up, I'm not sure. One way or the other, this is an absolutely fantastic little piece. I really dig it. Alright, let's dig right into this bonus item. It's some type of back-mounted missile pod system, I guess. It's one of those quarter-size cartridge-style bonus items. It comes with a little set of instructions, which states the obvious, put it on its back. So yeah, pretty simple and straightforward. These missile pods are a nice dark gunmetal gray, have nice cyan banding, and a very appropriate danger graphic imprint. Give them a pull and they pop open like so, with a little snap when they're locked in position. So here's something interesting I'm noticing about this piece. It's showing that it can fold up into a quarter-size box charger piece. You can apparently connect these in an elongated fashion to each other if you have multiple copies. And that's what this little 5mm fold-out piece is for. It's not for attaching to Kommando itself. Just to finish that thought, we're going to mount it right now. Given the shape with the deployed version of the missile pods, it's too long to fit lengthwise with the posts on here. But apparently, what they're showing to you is you want to bring the missile pods forward, so you'll want to attach it way up here just like that. And it's missiles away for this little dude. Very cool. It's a pretty simple design. There really isn't a whole lot for this bonus item as far as transformation and complexity. I really dig it. And it matches up really well with the figure. It's got an identical color scheme, same purple paint effect and speckled red. These just look great together. I'm not always 100% on figure bonus items, and sometimes I do actually skip them, but this is one that pairs so well with the figure and works great that I think you'd be missing out if you passed up on it. Wrapping up, you fold these pieces back up and they'll attach to both posts on the missile pod, and it becomes a backpack for your little soldier boy. Alright, let's transform this purple lizard into its box mode. First thing I'll say is this figure has an unusual number of steps to transform from one mode to the other. Almost 40 total, but don't let that deter you. Most of the transformation is actually pretty intuitive. First thing we want to do is split the tip of the tail and flip that out to the sides like so. Then we'll fold up these halves. This whole piece will rotate down. Then we're going to fold these pieces up like so and then rotate them around 180 degrees. Then we're going to take these halves and we're going to start forming a corner of the box. Basically, you're just going to fold these pieces up and they'll rest against the tip of the tail at a 45-degree angle. Next, we'll collapse the hind legs. There's a tab this paw will need to fold into, and then you're just going to push the knee up like that. Next, you're going to take the back end of the tail and push it forward, and it'll snap into place. The entire tail assembly is actually connected to this long spine that sits inside this groove in the underbelly. And you pull it down just like so, then rotate it 180 degrees. To get the hind legs clearance, you'll rotate them back and about in this position. Now you'll take the quarter panels for the hind section and split everything apart. These gray panels on the underside are going to come out like that. Then you're going to flip the character over and pull open these panels. Once you got these open, there are these double articulated hinges, and they're going to need to get pushed down into that groove. Then you're going to take these thin gray quarter panels and make sure you rotate the pointy piece so that it's pointed towards the front of the body. Now we'll turn our attention to the front half. With the paws, you want to make sure that these double grooves are pushed inside this hollow space on the forelimb, and we'll have them pushed out to the sides a bit so they're out of the way. The entire neck assembly is sitting inside a rod on the undercarriage, just like the tail. We'll rotate that down, and that gives you clearance for the next step. Next step is to split open the upper half of this torso, but before you do that, you'll need to rotate the forelimbs forward and get them out of the way. Then you'll fold these open like so, and you'll have the figure splayed out. These limbs need to come out sideways and then up, and then you're going to rotate them around this corner. So what you're going to do is put the limbs inside this quarter panel. We'll do that again. And I've got to do some reconfiguring here. One issue you might run into is this exposed ball socket piece. They can easily fall out if you're not careful, and I happen to have a figure with a loose one, which is not a big deal. This type of design is a double-edged sword. It's kind of a breakaway part that can fall off more easily, but by design, it's much less likely to break, if that makes sense. So we're going to try this again. Rotate it around, get it up and into that space, and now it's properly positioned. Now we're moving into the endgame. At this point, what we need to do is fold the figure directly in half. There's a nice bit of engineering here with everything moving around this central pivoting spine piece. These pegs will need to connect together, and it pushes together with a nice snap. We'll turn our attention to the head and neck and close his mouth. We'll rotate this around 180 degrees, then split open the back of the neck. There's this whole elongated neck piece that slides forward. It's on this articulated hinge, and it'll sit inside the midsection of this joint. Then we'll open up the collar. That gives you room to rotate the head around 180 degrees and bring it down inside of that space. Now we'll connect the neck to the body. These posts are going to connect to these slots, and then you're just going to take that, push that piece down and get it connected. And the head will rest inside that space. There's a couple of spots where the legs need to connect. There's a peg right here that'll connect to the side of Kommando's upper jaw, and there's a slot that'll connect to that post. One part I keep forgetting is that the collar needs to go inside that space right there, so we can maneuver that out of the way slightly and just pop it inside, and it's right up against the side of the head. Inside of the upper neck piece, it has a really nice transparent light blue accent panel here that's very reminiscent of an older figure called Jawbreaker. It's another peg and post connection that'll slide right in there. One panel that always trips me up, and I still cannot get it right, is the way these two quarter panels have to connect here. It's counterintuitive because they kind of look like they should connect to form a perfect seam, but they don't quite connect that way. As far as the instructions go, they're slightly vague about what they're showing. One way or the other, it does not show these pieces connecting right up against each other on the seam. I'll show you where that's a little bit problematic for the final transformation. Most of Kommando's transformation is very intuitive, it's just this one part that does not compute to me. They just kind of barely touch together and then you'll have that piece hanging off. There are some finishing pieces here, a couple of little pegs, and we'll get that lined up and connected. They do connect, but it's still somewhat loose and a bit fiddly. Not really the best transformation, at least the tail end of it. And you got yourself a box mode. I'm not gonna lie, this one did fight me a little bit. It's that last little bit here, the way that tail has to connect with this thin gray quarter panel, and the way these pieces don't line up. It's not a totally secure connection, but I mean, as far as I can tell, this is how it's supposed to be transformed. Not sure about these overlapping panels right here and whether they should be lined up like that. These pieces don't connect right on the seam. They're supposed to kind of overlap and have some teeth that kind of dig into the other panel, and it's not a perfect cube by any means. You do have these loose gray panels hanging off the side. The hollow interior doesn't bother me that much. There are a number of other figures that are kind of like that, but it's just not a straight cube by any means. As far as that goes, we're going to try putting inside its box charger, and it does actually fit. I think I lucked out on this one. I've transformed it a few times already, and for whatever reason it was a pretty tight fit to get it in the box charger. But this time it worked out. Now it's time to give this Purple People Eater a box grade. This is my rating system of 6 categories with 5 points possible for a total score of anything between 0 to 30 points. Kommando is a perfect representation of a Komodo dragon. In posture, articulation, and its overall design. I love that even as 5 Toys Beastbox designs continue to evolve, you'll still find small nod to older figures. I also love this character's name, 5 out of 5. This character is perfectly proportioned with plenty of plug-and-play ports to add weapons and accessories. If you're more into action figures, there isn't much to go on, so you'll probably get a lot more out of it if you have the bonus item. 3 out of 5. Transformation is mostly intuitive, although there are a set of quarter panels that don't quite connect the way I think they should. Its cube mode is somewhat lopsided, and not only have I had some trouble getting it to compact enough to slide smoothly into its box charger, there are some fiddly bits that are somewhat loose. 2 out of 5. Kommando's articulation is stellar. The way it can move from head to the tip of its tail is pretty incredible, and I think it's just about a perfect representation of a Komodo dragon. As transforming animal toys go, 5-2 Toys designs are simply unmatched, and this one is exemplary. 5 out of 5. This figure is made of decent quality plastic, and for as complex as it is with many small moving parts, it could be a total floppy mess. But overall, it is pretty well built. There have been a number of reports of people getting copies with floppy necks, and it should be recognized that those thin spines really don't offer much in the way of holding weight. As far as I can tell, if yours is loose there really isn't much you can do about it. 3 out of 5. The great thing about Beastboxes is you can ask several people and they'll all give you a different answer on what makes these things great. For me, it's really about the surprise and delight factor of the design that goes into these creatures that are truly nuanced, caricatured representation of their real-life counterparts. With that in mind, I've really enjoyed playing around with this lizard. 4 out of 5. And that brings the box grade total to 22 out of 30. It's been a couple of months since the last time I did a full figure review, and what a great figure to come back around with. I've really enjoyed playing around with this little purple people eater, and if you're a Beastbox collector or just a transforming figure collector in general, this is a hard one to pass up. I hope you've enjoyed this review. I do need to wrap up a couple of reviews that I said I'd do earlier this year, and there's at least one other feature request, not to mention that I'd like to do one for the AMTS racing team. I'll try to come back around with more content as soon as I can, but in the meantime, let me know what you think. Like, shares, and comments are always appreciated, and in the meantime, have fun wherever you are. Have a great day.
My legs! Oh God, I can't feel my legs!